Okay, one of the last things as far as differential equations was concerned for BC is Euler's method. Euler's method was one of those things that's really not like hard, it's just tedious and you have a lot you got to keep up with. So first thing, your equation for Euler's method is y equals y1 plus dy dx times delta x. So when you're doing Euler's method, what you want to do first is calculate delta x. And delta x does not change for the entirety of the problem. So you calculate delta x by going final minus initial over your number of steps. And then once you have this, delta x never changes. That is used for the whole problem. Once you know delta x, step 2 is kind of a bigger step here. So you're going to plug in y1. And that is something that is given in the problem. And then once you plug in y1, you're going to calculate dy dx. And that is going to be using a given point. And then you're going to plug in delta x. Doing all of those three things is going to give you a new y value. So then you're going to find your new point and repeat as necessary. So these steps in and of themselves are just kind of delightfully vague. So we'll look through this example to try to kind of make more sense of that. So step 1, calculate delta x. So this is our initial solution here. So that is your x, that is your y. We want to use 2 steps of equal size to approximate h of 1. So this is your starting x, and this is your final x. So that means for my delta x, you do final minus initial over the number of steps. So delta x is 1/2. That never changes. So now we go on to our step 2, and that's where we're using this equation. So y equals, this is your y1, plus dy dx comes from here. So x is 0, so 0 squared minus 1/2 y is 2. So that means dy dx comes out to -1. And then we plug in delta x. So that means we have 2 minus 1/2, which is going to give us 3/2. So now you find your new point. So your new point is you do x plus delta x, and then you do your new y value. So x was initially 0, delta x is 1/2, so 0 plus 1/2 is 1/2, and then your new y value was 3/2. Now that repeat is necessary. Says we are doing 2 steps. So that is 1 step, so this will be 2 step and then we'll be done. So we do y equals, now we're using this point. So y1 plus, now we calculate our dy dx. So we're going to have 1/2 squared minus 1/2 times 3/2, and then you multiply that by your delta x. All right, so simplifying this down, 1/2 squared is 1/4, minus 1/2 times 3/2 is 3/4. That still is times 1/2. So we've got 3/2 plus 1/4 minus 3/4 is -2/4, which is -1/2 times 1/2. So that's going to give you 3/2 minus 1/4. So 3/2 is the same thing as 6/4 minus 1/4 is going to give you 5/4. Yeah, that's a pen. Technically, you would calculate your new point. So you do your delta x plus your x. So 1/2 plus 1/2 gives 1, and then your new y is 5/4. But once you do 2 steps, that is your answer. So let me know if you guys need any help with this today. Thanks, guys.